Bhakti in Full Blossom, the Dramas and the Dance of Madhavadeva. This session is going to be chaired by none other than Professor Sahitya ji, and there are 3 papers in this session. One is Sri Dev Goswami ji, and the second one is Dr. Sahitya ji, and the third one is Dr. Sahitya ji. Before I hand over the session to the chair, may I request Secretary sir to kindly honor these invited guests of this session kindly with a token of books. Sri Dev Goswami ji, Dr. Sahitya ji, and Dr. Sahitya ji. Thank you so much, sir. Now, as I already informed you, that the theme of this session is Bhakti in Full Blossom, the Dramas and the Dance of Madhavadeva. And before I call upon the chair to take over it's my duty and honor to introduce the chair to the August gathering. Ms. Sahitya ji is a noted Assamese scholar and eminently represents the art of dance and music nurtured in the Vaishnavite Shastras of Assam. She is a rare combination of dancer, choreographer, teacher and a music composer, and has performed both at the national and international levels. Being a cultural column writer, she is associated with the textbook writing for school children, teachers handbook, teachers training material on environment, women's education, etc. She has been initially associated with the history of evolution of his beautiful dance form in recent times. She is the recipient of Sangeet Natak Akademi Puruskar and Tagore National Fellowship by Ministry of Culture, Government of India. Now may I request you, ma'am, to kindly take over.
Am I audible? Thank you, sir. Well, at the outset, I thank Sahitya Akademi for having curated this comprehensive seminar on Sri Madhavadeva, the saint poet Madhavadeva. As the president of the first session had said that whenever we talk about Bhakti movement in that part of the country, which is called Assam now, we always dwell upon Srimad Bhavan, and what we most miss about is Sri Madhavadeva's contributions. This is a very comprehensive and very laudable kind of seminar, having taken into account the areas like Madhavadeva in his times, life of exemplary dedication, the aesthetic composer and philosopher, situating Madhavadeva in historical perspective, the many-faceted personality of Madhavadeva, and Bhakti in full blossom, the dramas and dances of Madhavadeva. Personally, I feel this session would have been towards the end, because the first thing we see is the roots we discuss, about the roots, and then we go to the shoots, the branches, the leaves, and then only we go to the flower. We are bringing flower here, but in any case flower is always good everything about the flower is good. And to discuss the flower, we have three very eminent personalities with us. As Sir has already mentioned, Madhavadeva Goswami. He will be introducing him formally, but still let me just say a few lines about him. Madhavadeva is from a very illustrious family. His father, Ritacharya Jatin Goswami, who happens to be an Akademi Sahitya Akademi, he has lived his life for dance only. Gunakar has taken up, in addition to his dance and theatre, he has taken up a very rare form of theatre, which is called Ochapali. And he happens to be one of the new generation Ochapali, Ocha, in the state. Dr. Sahitya is a musician of Rabindra. In Assam, use any word of music and he will dwell upon it. Anil Sahitya is one musician that we can actually recognize as a true musicologist. And then Dr. Asha Sethi. Going all the way from Delhi, she did her PhD in Madhavadeva. We welcome you all, Asha and your friend, Gunakar and Amrit Sahitya, and now we will formally introduce them.
Thank you, ma'am. Sri Gunakar Dev Goswami ji is an eminent theatre director and actor working for the last 35 years. He has written more than 14 plays and directed over 45 plays. He is the artistic director of Purbaranga, an organization of performing arts and working as a resource person of CCRT, NSD, Ministry of Culture, Government of India. He is the recipient of prestigious Mahendra Thakur Award, special felicitation by Eka Abong King, Best Choreographer Award at Mahindra Excellence in Theatre Arts.
Gunakar is in reality an upper of virtues, a mind of virtues that I call him Gunakar. His wife also is a very good dancer, one of the best young dancers we have in the state. Gunakar, please.
बहुत कुछ बोल रहे अभी डर लग रहा है कोई बात नहीं रेस्पेक्टेड चेयरपर्सन एंड डिस्टिंग्विश्ड गेस्ट आदरणीय सचिव महोदय साहित्य अकादमी एंड रेस्पेक्टेड मैडम तो मेरे सभी लोग गुरुजन हैं सारे साथी भाई लोग गुरु भाई लोग हर्षिया मैम Malini Baidu, and other distinguished guests. पहला सेशन में ही बहुत कुछ बोल ही दिया गया है और हमारे लिए तो कुछ बचा ही नहीं है, सब कुछ बोल ही दिए गए हैं। फिर भी हम कोशिश करेंगे एक थिएटर स्टूडेंट के हिसाब से महापुरुष श्री श्री माधवदेव को एनालाइज करने की कोशिश करेंगे। तो मेरा ये मानना है कि जो हम असामीज में जिसको बोलते हैं कि जीवन और संयोग नाटकीय द्वंद्व, ड्रामेटिक क्राइसिस इज द रिदम ऑफ लाइफ, ये हम अगर सीखते हैं तो महापुरुष से ही सीखते हैं, श्रीमद शंकरदेव और श्री माधवदेव से। कैसे जर्नी ऑफ द लाइफ, कैसे हमको हमारा उतार चढ़ाव होता है, हम कैसे उस उतार चढ़ाव को हम कैसे क्रिएशन में डाल सकते हैं, ये हम सीखते हैं। हम अभी आजकल कहते हैं कि इतना क्राइसिस है लाइफ में, इतना क्राइसिस है, ये कहाँ क्रिएशन होगा, ये है, वो है, कोरोना है, फाइनेंशियल क्राइसिस है, आतंकवाद है, बहुत सारे क्राइसिस के हर बात हम करते रहते हैं। लेकिन उस समय भी क्राइसिस कम नहीं थे। महापुरुष श्रीमंत शंकरदेव और महापुरुष श्री माधवदेव के समय भी बहुत सारे क्राइसिस थे, लेकिन उसी क्राइसिस के दौरान उन लोगों ने जो क्रिएशन किए हैं, उनका जो मैसेज सोसाइटी के लिए दिए हैं, वो हम आज भी मानते हैं और उसी रास्ते पे हम लोग चलने की कोशिश करते हैं, स्पेशली द पीपल ऑफ नॉर्थ ईस्ट रीजन। तो मैं सब्जेक्ट के हिसाब से जो हम अगर हम तुलना करें कि द क्रिएशन ऑफ द परफॉर्मेंसेस ऑफ महापुरुष श्रीमंत शंकरदेव एंड महापुरुष श्री माधवदेव, तो हम सभी लोग जानते हैं कि अंकिया नाट जो लिखे गए हैं महापुरुष श्रीमंत शंकरदेव द्वारा, वो अंकिया नाट से सबसे ज्यादा सबसे जो इम्पोर्टेंट डिफरेंसेस है, जो हम बारीकी से उसको मानते हैं, वो है कि बच्चन रस। हम बहुत ऑब्जेक्टिव बात को आगे बढ़ाएंगे। एक तो है बच्चन रस। बच्चन रस जो शिशु लीला जिसको हम कहते हैं, वही सबसे बड़ी स्पेशलिटी है, सबसे बड़ी विशेषताएं हैं महापुरुष माधवदेव के जुमरा में। एंड द इम्पोर्टेंट थिंग, अगर हम महापुरुष माधवदेव के कैरेक्टर्स के बारे में थोड़ा सा ध्यान दें तो देखते हैं कि शिशु कृष्ण को, माने शंकरदेव ने सुपर पावर के रूप में कृष्ण को दिखाया है बहुत जगह पे। सुपर पावर और शक्तिशाली एक सुपर पावर के रूप में दिखाया है। और वो जो उनका जो लैंग्वेज है, उनका जो गाने हैं, जो गीत है, जो डायलेक्ट है, उसमें भी हम देखते हैं कि बहुत सारा मतलब मैच्योरिटी है उसमें, और मैच्योरिटी है और उसमें थोड़ा सा क्रिटिकलिटी भी है। सरलता एक बहुत जगह पे नहीं है, हमको उसको सरल बनाना पड़ता है। जब हम परफॉर्मेंस करेंगे तो उसको हम सरल बनाना पड़ता है। लेकिन माधवदेव के जो जुमराएं हैं, माधवदेव के जुमरा में बहुत सरल रूप से कृष्ण का कैरेक्टर को बनाया गया है, बहुत ही सरल। और दो डुअल कैरेक्टर, कृष्ण का डुअल कैरेक्टर। एक तरफ से वो माँ को बोलता भी है कि मुझे स्तनपान करना है, तुरंत वो ये भी बोलते हैं कि मुझे तो महर्षि सब, मुनि सब मुझे वर्शिप करते हैं, और लेकिन मुझे माँ दूध पीने नहीं देती है। तो मैंने बहुत डुअल, जो कृष्ण का कैरेक्टर करना बहुत, इसीलिए हम देखते हैं कि असम में जुमुना का परफॉर्मेंस इतना ज्यादा होता नहीं। क्यों नहीं होता है? इसीलिए नहीं होता है कि वो कृष्ण का कैरेक्टर मिलता ही नहीं। कहीं उम्र का हिसाब से नहीं मिलता है, कोई अगर उम्र का हिसाब से मिल गया तो डायलॉग नहीं बोल पाते हैं, अगर डायलॉग भी बोल पाते हैं तो उसका उम्र ही एक ही जैसा होता है, तो वो उसका जो चाइल्डनेस, जो मतलब बचपना, वो नहीं दिखा पाते। आई थिंक जुमरा का परफॉर्मेंस, जुमरा का प्रैक्टिस बहुत कम हुआ है। जितना अंकियानाथ, शंकरदेव का अंकियानाथ का परफॉर्मेंस होता है उतना तो नहीं होता है। मुझे लगता है कारण वही है कि कृष्ण मिलता नहीं है। यशोदा तो मिल जाता है, लेकिन कृष्ण मिलता नहीं। मैंने भी जब जुमुना का परफॉर्मेंस किया था तो मुझे लड़का तो मिला ही नहीं था। लड़की को, एक बच्ची को ला करके लड़का बना के कृष्ण मैंने हमने बनाया था कृष्ण। तो ये जो कृष्ण का जो एक जैसे और एक स्पेशलिटी है, सिंप्लिसिटी। जैसे आप अगर देखेंगे तो यहाँ पे अगर आप देखेंगे कि ये शंकरदेव का जो कृष्ण कृष्ण है, माने अंकियानाथ का जो कृष्ण है वो बहुत मेच्योर और बहुत उसमें ये तगड़ी बहुत गणित है, तगड़ी गणित है। लेकिन अब माधवदेव कृष्णा सिंपल, एकदम सिंपल, वो परफॉर्मेंस में बहुत सिंपलिसिटी है। ये जो सिंपल तरीके से भक्ति को लेके जा, ऑडियंस के पास भक्ति को लेके जाने का जो प्रोसेस है बहुत सिंपल वे से वो लेके जाते हैं। और शंकरदेव का अंकियानाथ में क्या है, एंटरटेनमेंट जो पार्ट है, एंटरटेनमेंट में युद्ध डाला गया है, प्यार डाला, श्रृंगार रस डाला गया है, हरण है, पुराण है, सब कुछ है। लेकिन माधवदेव का झुमरा में जब हम देखते हैं उसमें दस्य और बच्चल, सिर्फ वो दोनों रस से ही, दस्य जिसका भक्ति है भाव और बच्चल जिसका स्नेह, ये दोनों रस से ही वो पूरा परफॉर्मेंस में एंटरटेनमेंट डाल देते हैं, पूरा एंटरटेनमेंट। ना कहीं पे युद्ध है, ना कहीं पे आप उसको हरण देखेंगे, कहीं का कुछ भी नहीं है, कोई राफनेस नहीं है, कोई धमका धमकी भी नहीं, ये नहीं करेगा, ये नहीं करेगा, अरे तुम ये ऐसे कर, ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं। लेकिन लोग देखते हैं। ध्रुवदा ने फर्स्ट सेशन में एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट बात बोला था कि वोमेन को जो इंटरेस्ट लाना, वोमेन को जो बिठा के रखना बहुत जरूरी होता है। आजकल भी ये पॉलिसी चालू है कि जितना भी सीरियल है ज्यादातर वोमेन होते हैं, इसीलिए सीरियल का टीआरपी तो बढ़ता है। लेकिन वो पॉलिसी मैंने बहुत साल पहले ही महापुरुष माधवदेव गुरुजन ने बहुत साल पहले ही उसको रिप्लेस कर दिया था, अप्लाई कर दिया था कि यशोदा को लेके हम काम करेंगे, यशोदा को लेके, बच्चन रस को लेकर के हम काम करेंगे। और वो भक्ति, वो एक प्यार के साथ एक भक्ति को लेकर, नहीं कृष्ण को प्यार करना है, कृष्ण को भक्ति का करना है, नहीं तो ये होगा, ये होगा, ये होगा, ऐसा नहीं है। कृष्ण को प्यार करना है। This is the main difference between Shankardev creation and Madhavadeva creation. कृष्ण को धर्म, कृष्ण को भक्ति नहीं, भक्ति तो बाद में आएगा, पहले प्यार करना है। जो कंटेम्पररी है आज की समय में, अगर हर माँ यशोदा बनती, जैसे कंट्रोल करता है, पिताजी बोलता है मैंने इसको ऐसा किया, तुम कैसे इसको मार सकते हो, कैसे बांध सकते हो, कैसे बांध सकते हो। जैसे अर्जुन भंजन झुमरा है, अर्जुन भंजन झुमरा में जब कृष्ण को बांध करके रखा था तो नंद राजा आते यशोदा की दाढ़ी देते, तुमको कैसे पावर दिया, कौन तुमको ऐसे ये, कौन तुमको अधिकार दिया कि तुम इसको ऐसे बांध के रखे हो। बहुत कुछ बोल दिया, दासी, बंदी, रांगी, कुंवारी, बहुत कुछ गाली दे दिया। वही प्राण पुत्र कृष्ण को कमन अपराधे गुरु को पागे कोईसन जोईसन खंत सूर शत्रु को बांधो, तुही कुहु प्रकारे बंधन करे, जैसे चोर को बांधते हो, जैसे अपराधी को बांधते हो, ऐसा बांध दिया उसको, कैसे बांध सकते हो आपको। लेकिन असली माँ, इसलिए मुझे बार बार लगता है कि हमारे सब जननी अगर ऐसे ही होती, जो जैसे कृष्ण ऐसे नहीं बना, कृष्ण ऐसे नहीं बना। मुझे तो एक नाटक लिखने का मन कर रहा है, कृष्ण माय सन, ये यशोदा के ऊपर, कि यशोदा कैसे गाली उसको मिला है, आस पड़ोस के लोग उसको डांटते हैं, आपका क्या बेटा बनाया आपने, ये चोरी करता है, वो चोरी करता है, लेकिन कैसे उसको संभाला, कैसे उसको एक पूर्णांग मानव बनाया कृष्ण को। A complete man. कोई ऐसे उड़ाव से बांध भी दिया, उसको मार भी डाला, गोद में बिठा करके खाना भी खिलाया। तो ये तो यशोदा माने माधवदेव का जो क्रिएशन है, मुझे लगता है कि माधवदेव का यमुना का सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट उन्होंने अपने माँ को शायद फील किया। महापुरुष माधवदेव ने शायद अपने माँ को फील करके वो पूरा माने यशोदा को रूप दिया। तो ये इम्पोर्टेंट मुझे लगता है। और कृष्ण का तो कृष्ण को जैसे माने डबल जैसे सभी कैरेक्टर को, जैसे यशोदा को भी दो रूप दिया है। एक बहुत ऑर्थोडॉक्स जैसे राइट तुम लोग ने किया ऐसे दूध बनाया कि उसमें बोल रहा है ऐसे तो दूध पहले जैसा नहीं हुआ, आओ अब तो मैं खुद बनाती हूँ। जो पहले माने जो मतलब अर्जुन आहे तो की खबर पूरा खबर कोई से नहीं दोदी मत ना करो वो ही दोदी को करो है पूरा को समान है लोगों ने कोई से नहीं पाओ तो मैंने पहले जैसा तू मक्खन नहीं हो रहा है क्या बनाते हो लाओ मैं खुद बनाऊंगा। अगर मुझे बनाने के बाद अगर ज्यादा मिला लेकिन देखो वो बहुत भयंकर हो जाएगा। फिर वो अपने और उसके बाद माधवदेव ने इतना बढ़िया से यशोदा को डायरेक्ट किया। वही मुनि यशोदा दिव्य वस्त्र अलंकार परिधान करिए मालती आदि नाना सुरु भी कुहू में एखो बेखो बनिए, इतना बढ़िया से उसको डायरेक्ट किया, सजाया। एक तो पिक्चर सामने आ जाता है, एक माँ ब्यूटीफुल लेडी, और उसके बाद ये जो सूट मैंने इतना बढ़िया करके वो राग को इस्तेमाल किया, वेरी यूनिक। यशु ऐसा एक नाटक जाकर के ऐसा जगह पे रुक जाते हैं। उसके बाद ये सूट माने ये जो शायद माधवदेव ने शंकरदेव का जो क्रिएशन है वो देख करके सोचा था। कभी मैं एक मतलब पर्सनल बात में दोहराना चाहता हूँ कि जब मैं पिताजी का क्रिएशन देखता हूँ तो मुझे लगता है यहाँ पे कुछ ऐसा हो जाता तो शायद माधवदेव ने शंकरदेव का क्रिएशन देखते देखते सोच दिया था कि अगर यहाँ पे कुछ ऐसा हो जाता तो अगर कम समय में कुछ हो पाता तो वो जो सोचता था उसको उन्होंने उनका जुमरा में डाल दिया। कॉम्पैक्टनेस है, आप देखेंगे कि जुमरा में बहुत कॉम्पैक्टनेस है। जैसे अंकियादान में नाक में बहुत जगह में क्या है होता है कि एक ही बात 3 बार बोला जाता है, एक श्लोका में, एक गीत में, एक कथा में। तो माधवदेव ने बहुत जगह में इसको मेंटेन नहीं किया तो वो कॉम्पैक्ट हो गया। बहुत सारा कॉम्पैक्टनेस है, बहुत सारा कॉम्पैक्टनेस। और उन्होंने बारीकी से सोचा कि मैं वो कैरेक्टर को हम रिपीट नहीं करेंगे। अंकियानाथ में जो कैरेक्टर है उसको हम रिपीट नहीं करेंगे। अंकियानाथ में क्या क्या कैरेक्टर नहीं है उसको हम लाएंगे। जैसे नंद राजा को लाया और अलग अलग, और उन्होंने बहुत को एक्टर को कुछ जैसे छोटा कैरेक्टर कुबेर को लाया, बंदर को लाया, कुछ ऐसा कुछ कैरेक्टर लेकर आया। और यशोदा का कृष्ण को भी कुछ शिशु रूप में भी दिखाया और भगवान में भी दिखाया। लेकिन भगवान को दिखाने के लिए उन्होंने किसी जैसे हम हीरो को दिखाने के लिए बहुत सारा एक्शन का आश्रय लेता है, एक्शन का सहारा लेता है, बहुत सारा डिवाइसेस लेते हैं। उन्होंने कुछ नहीं किया। यशोदा का थ्रो उन्होंने कृष्ण को एक अलग रूप से दिखा दिया, बहुत सिंपली दिखाया। जैसे एक जगह पे अर्जुन भंजन का ही मैं कुछ एक सीन मतलब दोहराता हूँ कि बार वो यशोदा उनको बांधने की कोशिश करते हैं और बार वो खोल के दिखा देता है, मेरा हाथ खोल के। सिंपल लेकिन उसमें पावर है। यस, बहुत बारीकी से उन्होंने दिखा दिया। ऐसे देखो नहीं परेशान हो गया, माँ परेशान हो गई, वो भी उसका दिमाग में आया, अरे माँ तो परेशान हो गई। इसीलिए मैं सोचता हूँ कि हर माँ अगर यशोदा होती और हर बच्चा अगर कृष्ण होता, जो जिसका अवेयरनेस है माँ का दुख, माँ का सुख, माँ को कहीं पे बुरा लगा, जैसे बांधते बांधते माँ थक गई तो कृष्ण खुद बोलता है कि माँ तो थक गई, माँ तो थक गई, मुझे तो अभी माने बेटा बनना है। दिस इज इम्पोर्टेंट थिंग, माँ थक गई, अभी मुझे बेटा बनना है, माँ आओ। दिस इज द स्पेशलिटी ऑफ माधवदेव क्रिएशन। इतना अंदर का सोच, इतना गहराई का सब सोच है माँ और बेटी का ऊपर, तो ये बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट है। तो ऐसा बहुत सारा है। और पिता का जो रिलेशन है, हर पिता बोलता है ऐसा कि ऐसा मत करो, वैसा मत करो, ऊपर से सोचता है माँ, लेकिन ये जो कंटेम्पररी थॉट्स हम अभी सोच रहे हैं, ये मानवदेव ने कहीं बहुत साल पहले ही इसको सोच के लिख के खत्म करके रखा है, लेकिन हम इसको फॉलो नहीं करते, हम इसको पढ़ते नहीं है, हम इसको, और ये हम बहुत बार सोचते हैं कि क्यों नहीं होता। माधवदेव का जुमला का परफॉर्मेंस ज्यादा होता तो न्यू जनरेशन को बहुत सारी सीख मिलता है। तो यही है, टाइम बहुत कम है, पता नहीं क्या बोला मैंने, सॉरी अगर कुछ गलत बोल दिया, लेकिन मैं कोशिश करता हूँ, टाइम बहुत कम है तो
permission from the chair, actually.
Of course. We have from the two gurus we have 1200 अंको. Duzana guru 1200 अंको. 12 Ankyanads from the two gurus. 6 are attributed to Shankardeva, the Ankyanads, full-fledged, and 6 to Madhavadeva, which are called Chora. Gunakar has very beautifully given us the characteristics of a Chura. And one thing very good I like is from his father's creations, he also notices something that this can be brought out and in some other way it can be projected. But as Rabindra has said, we request Gunakar to show a few small part. Some dialogues, he's a very good actor as well.
I think Chumura is a more musical.
Yeah. Actually, this is the problem. It's very musical and.
Tarani is there, though. Why? It's a little problem. It's been around the song.
Tarani sing. You must have to perform. Both of you should have.
Copy naman ako pagkakawan.
But
Hari ki नहीं आया ना, लेकिन जब वो बेटा देख लेता है माँ मुझे छोड़ो नहीं, ये जो डबल मीनिंग होता है यशोदा माँ का, ये जो डबल कैरेक्टर होता है बहुत बारीकी से।
और दूसरा एक गाना ओ लो सोरा भूली जाओ
ये माने
वो
ये जो मतलब वो
ये पाना है,
भागा दौड़ा होता है, भागा दौड़ा होता है चीज
हमको लॉबस्टर शूट बोलते हैं।
देखो गुस्सा में देखो बोलो ना। हाँ? देखो ना वो देखो। और इला। अब हम भी देखो देखो। प्लीज।
डायलॉग इन्हीं को आप देखिए ना कोस देखिए।
पाना है ना? माता का समय में वो पाना है।
ये कृष्ण का एक डायलॉग है। अर्जुन भंजन का जब बांधते रहता है उसको बांधा नहीं जाते हैं तो माँ थक जाती है तो कृष्ण बोलता है हम अतो ये महिमा देखावलो तो बहु हमको नहीं जाना लो, हम इतना महिमा दिखाया कभी हमको नहीं जाना। हमाको बांधी थी आशा कोयलो हम जब आपने बंधन ना ही दे हो तो बकी हमारे बांधी थे को हम भगत खबर हम भगत गच्छर गुणे भगत खबर अधीन, वो खुद बोल देता है कि हम भक्त का अधीन हैं। तो उनके लिए एक तरह से यशोदा उनका माँ है, एक तरह से उनका भक्त है, तो फाइनली बोल ही देता है हमारी भगवता जननी को आशा हम पूर्ण करो। माओ ये जो सिंपलिसिटी है, सिंपल तरीके से वो बोल देता है। उदाहरण एग्जाम्पल दिया ये Thank you so much. तो मैं यहाँ पे ही अपना
You cannot finish. There might be some questions, some discussions.
Okay, yeah. No, मेरा
We are going to the next speaker. That
Yes.
doesn't mean that we are going to stop here.
Okay. Sorry.
Thank you very much, Gudakar. Now we'll go to the next speaker, Dr. Asha Sethi. Let's say this better, or more say this not enough. No, more say is not enough. About her.
Dr. Sahitya, she's a trained Kathak dancer, activist and independent scholar. She presented the national program of the dance and music on Doordarshan for over 3 decades before becoming advisor of DD Bharat. She was advisor to Kathak Kendra and has spoken internationally about Indian dance. She is initiating a US university hosted academic journal on South Asian dance and its intersections. And her academic writings can be found in different anthologies. She is twice the recipient of the Fulbright Fellowship.
She has also received Ambika Giri Rajut, no?
I gave the lecture.
Ambika Giri Rajut.
So, should I start, Sharathi?
Yes, please.
Thank you very much, Sharathi, for giving me the permission to start. And before I thank Sahitya Akademi for including me in this lineup today, I would like to thank Sahitya Akademi actually for focusing the light on saint poet Madhavadeva on the occasion of the Amrit Mahotsav of India's independence. I'm sure this choice would have pleased Madhavadeva for, even in his defining work, Naam Goha, there are several references to the word Bharat, so he would have probably been extremely delighted. I'm deeply grateful to Sahitya Akademi and Dr. Bhavan, sitting right here, old friends, so I find it a little strange, but member, general counsel, a warrior of the Academy, and the leader of the Asmi Sahitya Academy, as well as the president of this national seminar, for including me amongst the speakers. Present here are also those whose writings I read and who were my go-to people during my research, which Sharathi has already identified as something a little odd, that people from Delhi go to Assam. But I want to tell you that the very first time in my life I went to Assam was in 1974. I was at that time 14 years old, and from the air I looked at the land and I fell in love with it from the air. So from 14 there has been this passionate involvement with Assam. I have always been an Assam watcher, even in my younger years as a political science student at Delhi University and JNU, because Assam has always provided fodder for political thought. My own PhD actually pertains not to the dance per se, so these details are only out of my interest, but my work has been on the intersection of dance and politics. Today's reference, no reference to politics at all today, okay? So, but except for the opening point. I recognize that as an outsider and one of the very few non-Assamese names in the lineup for this seminar, even if Assam has been my show bhumi, I need to tread very respectfully, acknowledging that this matter deals with deep faith and also a strong element of the subculture of India, to which I do not belong either by descent or birth, but affinity, an unexplicable love and an association by choice is how I enter this field. Before I begin, because of the fact that there is a particular way of pronouncing words in Assamese, and if I slip up, I beg pardon of everybody present here. If I disappoint those who have invested in me, I'm very sorry, but the sincerity is there. Let me begin by recalling that when Kshatriya was about to be recognized, the Srimad Shankardev Sangha came up with the demand that the dance should not be called Kshatriya. That it should, and here again the very first problem, in Assam it's called Kshatriya and I say Kshatriya only because it's easier to say Kshatriya. So they came up with the demand that it should not be called Kshatriya but Sankari after the Adiguru. But in the subsequent discussions and negotiations, which are polite words of saying that there were some heated discussions, quite patrician at times, the dance was finally recognized in the name of Kshatriya. This politics around nomenclature was indicative of the lack of uniformity amongst satras, devotees and practitioners. Had the dance been called Sankari at that time, which is the 15th of November 2000 when it gets recognized, the contribution of subsequent inhabitants of the satras would have been negated and eventually invisibilized. Amongst those invisibilized would be Madhavadeva, voice in the Bhakti movement in Assam. Now, it is with no disrespect to any others that I say that Madhavadeva often gets hidden behind the bright effulgence that seems to come out from Srimad Shankardev, the founder of the Ekasaranandhar, often called in a manner quite devoid of any rasa, neo-Vaishnavism of Assam. But none can deny that Madhavadeva is the second voice in the remit of Bhakti from Assam. That only serves to enrich the pan-Indian polyphonic voices on Bhakti in the second millennium. However, when you look at the multiplicity of roles that Madhavadeva played, and he played plenty of them. And I will take a moment to make you remember what Dhruvadas said earlier, and speakers before that said, that he inherited his position at a very difficult time when he had to make a group stand together. A schism had happened, the Brahmins had peeled off. For many, it was a rejection of Shankardev. Madhavadeva felt that way too. You find references in the Namgoha where he alludes to Shankardev's greatness over everybody else, and some verses that question those who followed other preceptors. So not only was he there when the big sun had been eclipsed, when the movement had to be strengthened, when the royal power was mostly aligned against it, when the caste system had more outside it than inside it. So what did he do? These are amongst his real big success stories. He sent the emissaries to Upper Assam to augment the footprint of the movement. He created and formalized the Satra system where these arts, of which you have seen the most fantastic representation just now, developed. And carefully, he also took the trouble when he was structuring the Satra systems of keeping it extracted on one side of the Vatsara and yet engaged with the laity through imaginative bridges that he established, particularly with a special place for performance, which was used as an essential audiovisual tool, a sort of IEC material. This place in Barpeta, where he created a crucible for this to happen, the Rangi Altar, later went on to be represented in the Kirtan Ghar, the Navghar, where performance would happen. He actually created a space for performance. If you look anywhere around India at that time, there may have been other examples when music was part of the faith's practice, as in Sikhism. The entire Guru Granth Sahib is written in ragas. But to create a special place, that is not seen anywhere else where this can happen. Now, if he also made performance part of daily and occasional rituals, if we put the microscope more focusedly on the arts that we practice there, one finds a further attempt at inclusivity. I will come back to this inclusivity problem issue later. All I can say at this point is that he made sure that all people with varying levels of performance capacity, which means even among such beginners, somebody like me would find place in Madhavadev's vision too. And he created largely group works, big performances, no special positions for people like the Sutradhari dance, for instance, the highlight of the Sahitya tradition. You do not have that kind of a thing in Madhavadev's work. It's more about the ensemble together. This is a point that independent India also recognizes after an initial sort of romance with the solo art. They realized that their success lies in representing the solo art through multiple bodies rather than presenting that highly specialized solo artist. So he made the groups so that more could be accommodated based on the issue of age. Anyway, now one sees that his contribution, even when it comes to the cultural scenario, is unparalleled, unmatched, unique, and he is as much of an icon of the arts as Srimad Shankardev is. While he was present here, and I want to tell you that when I was doing my work, I got the big shock of my life because she was the only person who actually states clearly in her book, because all the other books are mostly written from the perspective of Srimad Shankardev, that Madhavadev's contribution is actually far greater. And that responsibility in a way comes on me today in the seminar because I am representing everything, but distinctly his contribution is quite phenomenal, which is dance. In most Assamese homes, you will find of the Charimurti, the Kirtan Goha, the Nam Goha present there. To date, his verses are sung by ordinary people as daily quotidian activity. Thus, he lives today as much as, to borrow a phrase that Albert Einstein used for Gandhiji, when he actually walked this earth in flesh and blood. So I'm actually very surprised why he remained in the shadows for as long as he has. Shankardev had asked Madhavadeva to compose a scripture that would be saturated by the philosophy of Eksadanatharam and also rich in rasa. The result was the Nam Goha, also called the Hazari Goha, for the fact that it contains almost 1,000 verses. Shankardev had realized the importance of song and dance for communicating the philosophy of the faith and evangelism, and he took forward the message of the Bhagavad and said that I'm just going to do the translations because the laboring that I have to do otherwise would be too much. Those who do song and dance, they are the ones blessed in the three worlds. The Nam Goha starts with an appropriate devotional words, and you remember that it says, I pay homage to that devotee who is not interested even in salvation. I seek only tasteful devotion. Rahamoi is the word that he uses in the opening verse of the Nam Goha. Actually, when I look at even the structure of the Nam Goha, it is as an architecture. I see a element of dance in it. And to explain which dance I'm looking at, I will ask you to imagine the sama of the dervishes. So in the beginning, there are analyses and all those 999 verses, there are analyses and things like that. But from roughly 684 onwards, things change. The metaphors tend to get dropped. The essential exhortations come there. And the last 200 words, it's just the naam, it's just the chant, and I cannot help thinking of the dervish at work coming to that central point, compelling you to come to the bindu, the kendriya bindu. That is what a good dance performance does. It takes you from the outside in. I hope I have time in the end to tell you, come back to this point. Now the surge of rasa, raha as he called it, is a common leitmotif that runs through all his writings, Madhavadev's. The rasamai quality is what adds to the danceability of his work. If you have had a chance to read the abstract that has just been circulated, you will notice that it says dance and danceability in the works of Madhavadeva, but the announcement actually said the dance that Madhavadeva created. But I really wanted to talk about the danceability also, so I'll put it in a little later. Now, so of the Nanda Bhakti, he too used the same root of Kirtan and Shravan and Smaran, a judicious mix of poetry, metaphor, simile, chant. Let me just give you quick translations. This metaphor and simile is so interesting. There is the presence of a great dancer here. We also have the parents of another great dancer. We have the son of and a husband of very good dancers. I mean, iconic dancers. They will understand that for dance you need space to create. Otherwise, you saw me do that wonderful word-to-word argument. But how does the theatre part differ from the dance part? Is that you let go of any link with the word except you hold on to the idea and then you explore. So if, for instance, who will be able to find the simile of Krishna's beauty? He is love incarnate to all the milkmaids. He himself is the only equal of his own elements. This is from a body, a little bit translated. How much space this has for sunshine. In fact, let me tell you that since I deal with a lot of dancers of different forms, I have full intentions of giving them the challenge of doing this, just this in their own styles. And I think something very beautiful may emerge, and Akademi, I recommend this for that. So board gates, Madhavadev's board gates, some believe enjoy greater popularity than Shankardev. Most of the board gates that were written by Madhavadeva are the ones that are danced. What is this quality that makes them be more suitable for dance? It is the implication of literary and rhetorical devices. Primarily, for example, let me give you an example. that he followed 6 themes, of which Leela is the first and possibly the biggest theme that he followed. In Leela come Jagan songs, which is when he wakes up, Helan songs, when he has fun with the other Gopas, Charan songs, things that happen when he graces the cows, and Nritya oriented. Well, they are meant to be danced. These board beats are franchised Krishna and describe every act a child of all ages does, as Gunakar has so beautifully explained. Earlier, Dada mentioned in the earlier session, it is such an important intervention. Why a child Krishna? Why? And I think that you may not have great success in Shringara, you may not have great success in Mahotsav, but you always, everybody, man or woman, gets drawn towards the child. So that was one. Secondly, it was the world of the child is a simpler world, so it's easy to enter it even for people with varying standards of literacy. And the third thing that I would like to mention is that the child allows you humor. So very lovely, humorous stories enter. Now, humor is a less explored aspect in dance, and it is there in drama, but it's a less explored aspect in dance. So I see a possibility of great growth should this angle be taken. And the final reason was that even while talking about the child, he introduced so many similes and metaphors that they allow for possibilities of exploration. It is true that in the satras, Abhinay is not done, and when I say exploration, I am talking about, immediately I am talking about Abhinay, but now Satriya lives 2 lives. It has the life of ritual existence in the satras, and it has its beautiful staged life. These are examples of the beautiful staged life that you are seeing. So I think it's time to go past that point. I won't talk much about Patimas because that has already been done. And now I would like to come quickly in the interest of time and the fact that I want to come to the last point that I think is a rather dramatic point. Can we have the first slide? So let's look specifically to the dance contributions of Madhavadeva. I have already talked to you about the danceability aspect. Now let us talk to about the dance contribution. Next slide, please. I have nothing by which I can do this here. So the first dance that one talks about is Chumura. Now you can turn around and say, well, we just talked about a play called Chumura. That's true. This is a little befuddling in the Madhavadeva thing for somebody who is not from the tradition, that you will find 3 references, 3 different meanings, balances attributed to Chumura. Chumura the play, or the playlet, because it's a little smaller than the Ankyanads. Chumura the dance, and a particular play called Ras Chumura, Rah Chumura. Except that there is a huge amount of doubt whether that was ever written or not, that play, by Madhavadeva. And I think that much of the arguments and many of the points we are making today would change if we could conclusively establish that Ras Chumura is actually written by Madhavadeva, because then we have a total change that only child Krishna business goes, we get more of other things coming in. The problem is that there is no definite conclusive evidence, towards which Sahitya Akademi, I make one recommendation to you, please consider that. Today you get artificial intelligence. Today you have artificial intelligence and special softwares that looks at language patterns we have so much language patterns that is established. Maybe we could use this as an example, if we invest in that kind of software and use it to establish whether Ras Chumura is written by him or not. Because if it has, then much of all of us will have to make changes to our papers. But if it is not established, then now papers can go like this, and maybe we are doing injustice yet again to Madhavadeva by not establishing that one way or the other. So we are going to talk about the Chumura, which is the dance Chumura. Separate from the playlet Chumura, separate from the particular Ras Chumura. Okay? Okay, so these are short, humorous, they have familiar incidents, domestic settings, simple human quality to understand them. Literary excellence, however, has not been compromised, all of them pertaining to the child literature. Now, the question arises, why are they called Jhumuras? I was rather hoping that Gunakar would lead us through it and save me this part, but anyway, could it be something to do with Jhumari, which in the Sangeet Damodar is about an erotic subject? But this man never wrote about erotic in any manner. Could it be Jhumari or the erotic dance of the women of Mithila, as one finds referenced in Vidyapati songs? But we know that that isn't. Could it be a reference to the 8-syllable meter that one finds in Vaishnava poetry? It's a possibility. The jury is still out on this. Or is it a term coming from Ras Jhumura, but on which I request you to use artificial intelligence, which is easily available today. Interestingly, in a recent conversation with Dr. Bhavan and about this, all these explanations from him. Also the fact that Jhumura means small, chota chota he said, refers to the smallness of the playlist. Another interesting mention he made was that Jhumura comes from the Sandhi of two words, Jhum, which means air, and Mur, which means turn. So in this dance item, there are many turns, parts that are employed. He told me this, however, saying that this is a belief in the Satra. There is no evidence to support it. Now, at that moment I chilled, because moments like this make me wonder that as the landscape of Satriya gets repopulated with non-Satra dancers, will Satriya lose its artistic memory and oral history? You can identify the Jhumura dance immediately, look at the picture, by the costume. That's a strange mix of gendered clothing. The skirt or guri is worn in the bottom, while a net embroidered male skirt called a baikon and a turban called the pagudi are also worn. The idea behind this is the transgender moment in imagination. And artists who are masters tell us that transgender artistry is the most challenging. In this dance, the guri suggests the gopis whose dance is being sung, whose song is being sung, but when Krishna disappears all of a sudden from the last circle, by way of consolation, the women play the boy god as well, and that fact accounts for the male parts of the costume. This actually extends the idea, Vaishnava idea of Krishna being the Param Purush with all of us, whether men or women, as gopis seeking union or with them. Now, how is this dance structured? There are two parts to the dance. Ramdani, which is the pure dance part, which precedes the song part, called the Ganach, followed by Melor Nach. Mela. As Sharadi is the practicing dancer here, if there are any practice-oriented questions, maybe you could address them to her. But as I mentioned that, so Mela, only because it's an expansive Mela, many elements mix in it and all that. In the Satras, there was never any abhinay done to that. Hand movements were certainly used, but they were all decorative movements. In the Jhumura, normally a single tal is used, and this is often the Yati tal. The second dance, second picture please, is the Bahar dance. This is a dance with close links to the playlist that Gunakar has mentioned, Jhumura, Bojan, Behar. Some interesting things about it is that in the Natya Shastra there were some restrictions of depicting certain things. One of them was not to show eating, but Madhavadeva transcended that rule and showed the preparation and the eating of the food. When it is done in the Satra, the food that is prepared is shared by the devotee, the servitor, as prasad, which has also been referred to as similar to the Sikh Lakar, which is consumed by everyone, including the Satranikar. Food has been a part of the Satra Brahma tradition. You earlier had Patni Prasad being referred to. It's one of the Amtyanans of Shakadev. The Bahar dance again has two parts with the Ramdani and the Gita dance, and the tal pattern here is more complex, and the song is often arranged in a garland of tals. Parital is one of the prominent tals in this. The Ramdani is normally the Sutta tal, but I would be mistaken on these small details about what tals are being used. I just need to tell you that, ever since this dance has been given national recognition, many changes have come in here. So it is a constantly evolving form, and somebody needs to write again on the here and the now of this dance, not dependently on Ulums. Now, interestingly, as many as 25 to 30 young monks in a monastery that still have that number of monks do that, at least in the age group, age bracket. Stories of Krishna's pastoral life, cowherding, the games he played are woven into the presentation. There are accounts of the boys would often be dressed as different characters, yes. The flute-holding peacock wearing feather, wearing Krishna in a yellow dhoti, and Balarams, many of them would play that role, draped in blue. While the satras are hard pushed to muster adequate numbers, most urban dance teachers have inadequate male students to replicate this dance. The women are not so eager to do cross-gender artistry. The dance can be staged, so in a way this dance may be undescribed. The dance can be staged separately on special occasions like memorial ceremonies or as part of the playlet in the satra. Next, I'd like to take up one of the kohinoors of the Satriya tradition. This is the Chali dance, which is quite the star dance. It is easily identifiable in the satras as the monks in the age group of 14 to 15 years. That means they're pre-pubescent boys who have no face fuzz, having a beard. I understand that they are very particular, that they don't like face fuzz boys, but I have seen face fuzzy boys also dancing. They dress up like girls with a white guri, a black and gold embellished jacket, a prominent belt called tagali, the flower garlands, wigs, body stuffing and all that. They also wear a pin veil to cover this false head, which has been held up by a kopa, which is a wooden stick type hair height enhancer. You will find it interesting to know that in the satras they actually have competitions called the kopa competition, whose kopa is the highest. Now the front end of the veil is often tied under the chin. You may ask why. Well, in my research I've got a lot of answers that say, including the fact that it is to prevent the spit from flying out. Why it would fly out only in this dance and not in the others, I don't know. It is, some said it's to encourage them to be quiet. Somebody else said it is to hide the bony face. You can take your pick here. At some time there is actually reference to the veil covering the entire face, much like the gunga drawn forward. And you can imagine then that the Chali dancers would look like Manipuri Ras dancers. The first two, now Niche, on this side are Jadumani and Sarvanand at the Uttar Kamlabari Satra. On the other side is girls dancing Chali dance, but these are girls who are dressed up in those traditional costumes. But when you go on stage today, you may not see these, not probably you will not see this costume, because for continuity the dancers dance in their glorious outfits. And that's what they would have looked like on top if the veil had come down. Can I have the next one, please? Yeah, so why was the dance called Chali? The dance answers are many. One says that the thought behind it is the strut of the peacock as it gets excited and dances on seeing the rain clouds. An excitement, as was explained, comparable to the thrill of a devotee feels when the Lord appears. Plus, there are actually past examples of this cross-dressing and cross-dancing. The Harivamsha describes Nara dancing at Vaikunt. Krishna is believed to have danced dressed in woman's attire in Vrindavan. A similar Chali Nritya is described in Shuddhanta Sangeet Damodar, and Professor Maheshwari also referred to the Chalis found in the Natya Shastra. Some Chalis in the Natya Shastra have many categories and names like the Bhumichari, the Akashichari, but one does not see all these elements of the Bhumichari and Akashichari necessarily in this dance. Neighboring Manipur has a description of a dance similar to the Chali dance in the Govind Sangeet Leela Vilas by King Kakechandra. There are as many as 8 Chalis, and when mixed with permutations and combinations of talas and beats can appear to be quite varied, but the movements are not so many that each movement is stunningly beautiful. These are danced on main tithis of the Guru Shankar-Dev Madhavadeva in the Kirtan in the Satras. The song accompanying a Chali Naach is always by Madhavadeva and is in a Bandha. Now, I will leave it to Anilji to explain Bandha to you, and I will move on to tell you that it is important to understand that the Bohats got into trouble in the historical past with Hong Kong kings for indulging in degenerate, where is in degenerate behavior because they sort of try to pass themselves off as celibates, and then here it is. Okay. And here they were hobnobbing with women. Later the Ahom court was to invite them to perform dances in their court premises. Since this dance was a sacred dance, a secular version was created more glamorous in a way because the costumes are grander and the musicality is more interesting since they use the Pakhawat and Mridanga bowls. That was called the Rasagariya Chatpatali. So I have 3 pictures here. That is on stage. This one. So now that you have on stage and you have certain freedoms, openings and entries are conceived very dramatically. That's thoroughly improved, doing a grand closer. I think it was good. But the little picture on the side there is the monks dancing Rasagariya Chakri. Now you see the difference between their costume there and their little more glamorous silk costumes here. So that was the difference. I also wanted to mention to you, next please. Yeah, that certain variants appear with this. These don't have anything to do with Madhavadeva, but they appeared thereafter once the Chali dances were created. They included the Indra Abhishek dance, which is unique to Dakshin Tat Satra, and the Apsara dance, which is from the Omniyanti Satra, are the examples of the Hajuriya dance and all that. On another occasion, they don't have anything to do with Madhavadeva. My next dance that I want to talk about is Nadumangi. Can I have the next slide, please? This is again an all-male dance. It's danced on the 3 Tithis. We have Kamlabari group of Satras, the Shankadev Tithi, Madhadev Tithi, and the Padmaka Tithi. It is always danced on the 2nd day. Its movements, some of them suggest swimming, as it tells the story of Kaliya Dam. The costume is the same as for Bahar dance, but in this case only 3 or 4 members dance together. They are always aligned in a line pattern. So I've tried to keep some different images to let you know that. If there are more than can be accommodated in a line, then normally a second line is created. They dance with their face towards the Guru Asana in the Satras. Stage of course has different demands, and so you dance it whichever way you want to. This too consists of the pure dance part, the Ramdani part, and the Gitarna. Here multiplicity of talas are used. The songs are from Madhavadev's composition, and often more than one song can be strung together to do this. No abhinay is done in the satras, but decorative hand gestures are used again on the stage. Anything goes right now because we have not formulated tight banks of the river. I don't know whether it's even necessary. The costume is very interesting. It's a black and blue shirt, here in dhoti, the distinctive belt which is called the kant, and the headgear which is the decorated headgear. My last and final dance, next picture, is the Gaur Praveshnat. It's again an all-male dance. It depicts the stories of young Krishna and illustrates his activities with his friends while coming back to Gokul from Vrindavan after herding cattle day long. Boys of all ages, from small to big, dressed as Krishna, enter the stage and keep moving in circles. It is one of those dances that has great sanctity and is traditionally not done outside of the satra. As the dancers turn and twirl, there descends a mysticism on them. This dance really does not need an audience. It is done as a rasamai ritual. It has an otherworldly quality to it, something very powerful. You lose yourself in it and you lose sense of time. I have had a description of this dance by somebody, and so powerful was it that even today my voice cracks when I talk about this. It is just something so powerful. In the end I return to Madhavadev's Namgora and reference its structure once again. Amongst the ideas that come to my mind as I look at the architecture of this work again is a description that was once offered by the legendary dancer Bala Saraswati to the repertoire of Bharatanatyam, as she compared it to a South Indian temple. The traditional order of the Bharatanatyam recital is the correct sequence in the practice of this dance, she said. for revealing the spiritual through the corporeal. The Bharatanatyam recital is structured like a great temple. We enter through the gopuram, cross the Arth Mandapam. We enter through the gopuram of Alaradu, cross the Arth Mandapam of Jatiswaram, then the Mandapam and the grid of Shabdam, and enter the holy precinct of the deity in the Varna. This is the space that gives the dancer expansive scope to revel in the music, rhythm and moves of the dance. In dancing with padas, one experiences the containment, cool and quiet of entering the sanctum sanctorum. Dancing to a padam is akin to the juncture when the cascading lights of worship are withdrawn and the drum beats die down to the simple and solemn chanting of sacred verses in the closeness of God. The natural movement in Nandovatu and in this lineup of dances that I have told you, ending with the Gaur Pravesh dance, is centripetal. From the long drawn parikrama of the temple to the inner reaches of the sanctum sanctorum, a place suitable for the intensity of Abhinay, for the darshan and for the shunyata. It is a magical moment in both temple experience and dance experience. It saturates the being and its being. It reinforces dance by the fact that Madhavadeva acknowledged that in the writing of the scripture itself, he felt an intensity of worship. Imagine how much more intense and resonant an experience it is when poetry, music and dance come together. This is the privilege of all dancers to dance something.
Thank you, Dr. Sethi. Dr. Sethi has in her scholarly paper touched upon so many points and very, very important, all of them. Some of them may require some discussion, but let us keep it to the end of this session. Like she has touched upon lack of uniformity at that time when the so-called recognition was being given, so-called given by the Senate Academy to Korea. She said about the multiplicity of roles played by Madhavadeva, the vision that he had in the Rangal Viva, the first ever space created for dance performances, some equality characteristics of his works. And this one space person, I would like to say a few words about it, but later, not now. And then the Chumra, the question of Chumra, which one actually we are looking, and artificial intelligence, that is also, I think, that we should look into that. Now we can take help of such technologies when we may in getting it from ourselves, from within. Dance, as we all of us know, that sacred dance is the use of dance in religious ceremonies or rituals, and it has formed the major element of worship in Hindu temple with strictly formalized style. In the 20th century, sacred dance has been defined by choreographers as the means of developing community spirit, which Madhavadeva or both the gurus could visualize some 600 years back. Although this is a very recent kind of thing happening in the 20th century only, these have been revived, but we have been having it for the last 600 years. We have heard Gunakar speaking about the churas, the theatres, mini theatre forms. Then Dr. Sethi about the dances. And now let us go to the music. The music of Madhavadeva. A journey of spiritual beauty from Dr. Amrit Sahitya, who will be formally introduced by Suresh Bidam.
Dr. Anil Sahitya is a noted Assamese writer, has 13 published books and 20 dramas to his credit. He has been directing music in more than 100 plays and had participated in drama festival organized by National School of Drama, New Delhi. He has also directed music in Assamese audio video albums and Assamese films. Has participated as a resource person in more than 50 works on workshops on drama, music and dance. He has participated in many cultural festivals of performing arts in India and abroad. Served as a member of Sangeet Natak Academy and Northeast Zone Cultural Center. He is the recipient of Bor Bihua Award, Gramya Ratna Award, Lifetime Achievement Award by Sivsagar District Sahitya Sabha. He had been serving as a lecturer and a principal in Moran College, Assam till 2015.
Please, Dr. Sahitya.
Thank you. It's a nice opportunity for me that I been invited to Sahitya Academy. My friend Dr. Bhavan, winner notice on Sahitya Academy. Okay. And Dr. K. Srinivas Rao, Secretary, Suresh Babu. My esteemed just a address now. Dr. Kologate Hazulita, Mahini Goswami, and my now colleagues, Nagar Devgoswami and Arshi Shetty, and Assistant President, my friend, sometimes speakers of art, so my guy, yes, so kind of you to all, and the galaxy of scholars assembled here, I salute to all, I bow down my head to all, Pranam. Yes, Madhavadeva met Shankardeva at the age 32. Madhavadeva was born in 1589 and 1489. And when he met Shankardeva, at that time Shankardeva age is 72. He is a full-grown human being. And what the music that is created by Madhavadeva, before that is Madhavadeva, Shankardeva created the music in field of dance, in field of rhythmic pattern, and in field of ragas. Yes, he wrote as many as 240 Borgits, Balapuri, but one is subsequently Kamala, while Bhavan, take it to memorize. But at the event of this forest burn up all these Borgits, but only 34 are rescued. Then Shankardeva persuaded Madhavadeva, I will not write more Borgits in future, you write them. And Madhavadeva wrote as many as, according to somebody it is 171 and somebody 156, and it is 181 also including some songs of Natorgit. That is Ongya Nator. The songs of Ongya Nator is not termed as Borgit. Why? Because in the dramas, those songs are entered, these are sequential. A sequence of a starting, sequence of a fight. These are not, some of these are not included Borgit. But some of the songs in the Ongya drama are devotional, are narrate the beauty of Sri Krishna. Somebody include these as Borgit. Even the complete works of Madhavadeva published by Srimanta Shankardeva, that some Borgit, some Natorgit of Madhavadeva is included in a Borgit. And the rags are there, rag Sindra, rag Akwari, rag Puhai, rag Kanara. this tune of Rag Kanara and tune of Aquad is known by the all villagers. How it is said. And before perform, what there is a process of raga here. Yes. Like Ram, Hari, Rabindra, Tanana, these are the words. Which is word? You feel like that somebody something is hard to hold to the voice. Oh, Rama, This is just an example. This is just an example. You ask Bandhara. Bandhara is composed by somebody. Mela is originally located. Like in Saling Rag, before Uttar Hari, Tanana. Yes, and this is Raga's line. Hindura, Rag Hindura. When you convert about Rama, Hindura is some. Ramo or the series is not entered. In Madhavadeva also Hindura is like that. Gopini is there. This is Ekta. This is called Nandi Ekta, which is Nandi is a name of raga. In Nandi raga, this rhythmic pattern is used. There are 4 types of Ekta. This background, this musical background, is captured by Mahotsav. Nandi Ekta. What is that? 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2. Day in nanau kit, day in nanau kit, day in nanau. Then tas down, ta kit, count, day then count, day nani ta kit, day. In a rhetoric Veda, there are mainly 3 parts. Number 1. The Gama, Goti part. These are used in Sarina, Jumranas, Nagupungi, I will say you get 10 part with me. Yes, Gaman, date in Nanauki, this is Gama. And what is a roll? This is called Kappa. Date in Nanau, then that's town, tata, town, date and town, the Nani, when this Thai part of a song is there, and go to the next part, then repeat Thai part and next part. In between there, the third is there, and the 8th part of the song there is Supa. So this is very important. This is the music. Sok is 2 or 3 bolos, like A, N, T, like this. At the end of the song or end of the dance, this suko is pronounced. How suko is? They did nanau kit, they did nanau, then tas kau tata, krita, they then sound, jinani krita, now suko, tata, krita, denita, hey, tata, krita, they then sound. Can you sing? 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 tata. This is Ekta. And so 4 types of Ekta are there. Down, day that kitty down, kitty down, nagre, that kitty down. This looks like that. Another actor is the harmonica. Yes. Harmony. Make that kitty down, kitty down, like that. Harmony. Harmony means this here. Timber is like that. And another actor is there. This is actor of dance. Actor of dance. Down, 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 down. This is I think from somewhere else. Sutadal anyway. Sutadal, yes. Okay. And what? How? In long 500 years, these are continued from one generation to another generation. Even the Dr. Professor said that at the time, these people are mostly Mongoloid. Kings are there. And no, not at all school, college, etc. There is enough jungle, river, and small teeny part with mud and water. How these are memorized? It is interesting. When I was at the age of 7, 1962, in my village, whole of the Bhavan teach me these rhythmic pattern. These are classical. This rhythmic pattern are classical because they are fixed, but they make it a folk nature. Excuse me. They make it a folk nature. Otherwise, it is not possible to continue it from one generation to another generation. What is that folk nature? The Korida, which is, they say, double clap, double clap, double clap, double clap. Rupokta, double clap, double clap. Double, they say double, dusapuri, dusapuri. In Assamese, dusapuri, dusapuri. But remember, they advise me, remember, in Purital and Rupoktal there is a difference. Asapuri, dusapuri, asapuri, dusapuri, this is Rupoko. But in Purital also that asapuri, dusapuri, asapuri, dusapuri, the gap is longer, just longer, longer by one tone. They are not said like this, but they say this is just longer. But I cleared a concept when they till the words of that. It is day, in that we down, okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They never count, but they say dusapuri, dusapuri. And dusapuri, dusapuri, the gap is a bit longer. Day, in that we down, okay. You will get it in a bell or rago. You will get it in the bell or rago. I have, what is bell or rago? Then it. Oh, Sintito, Gopini, Peki, Noira. This is Belwar. And they say that in Belwar, there is tragic flow is there. In Kedar also, Karuna Kedar, there is tragic flow is there. And they were giving very ideas, all ideas of this rhythmic pattern, as many as 42 rhythmic pattern. But out of this 42 rhythmic pattern, these 10 are very important. What are those? Ektal, Porital, Rupoko. What is Porital? Rupoko is day, down. This is Rupoko. And Porital, in Kamala, it is again 7 matters in this how down tak day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You see 500 years this continue. This classical in nature. But they become made pop. And they ask me Zotital. Sir, you are dancing in Zotital. But this rhythmic pattern where it taught me like a call. What is that? Asapoli, 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 India, Asapoli, India, Asapoli, Asapoli. What is that? Down, when it used in the Zumanas. Yes, in Zumanas they explode. Down, yes. Yes. You see how Madhavadeva derived this Sokita. And this is a rhythmic pattern of 28 count. You know what is the song here? सबसे लंबा है. What is the song? But this pattern is acquired by Paul. What we call in Assamese? Nirokhor Soha Hoza. Cultivator. Soha, cultivator. Nirokhor, illiterate. And Hoza. No, they are men of extraordinary brain. They have now this memory power. They have that creative power. They have their memory power. Therefore, these are continued from one generation to another generation. They have their extraordinary brain power. If they would have been school or college, then they would got the first position, like because they got the first position in higher school. Yes, but no school college out there. No school college, therefore they are illiterate. You should not insult them like that. Because no student college.
I won't say illiterate, they are unlettered.
Yes. जैसे रूपों को डालो, पूरी डालो, इसको लाए, ऐसा पढ़ी ऐसा पढ़ी, डेटा किता दीना, डेटा ऐसा पढ़ी ऐसा पढ़ी, डेटा किता दीना की डाउन की. This is process. This is rural process. This is classical. But how they convert into the purple, but not that all. Data kita dina kiti down you money to I love like that, yes, like that. This is 7 counts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes, there is a Rupakota in South India. There is a Rupakota in North India. This Rupakota of North India, Rupakota of North India is 7 count. But Rupak pattern in South India is 6 count. And in Assam also, Rupak count is preliminary 6 count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And interestingly enough, then in Rupak pattern of North India, there are tragic songs are there. Mera jeevan kuraka. This is Rupak, but flow is present. Yes, like it like. And then come to the Hindura, Raga Hindura. Raga Hindura where Sri Krishna and that Rama and that. Oh yare Naya. Oh I should say this Namo, like you know, Namo. You know Namo. And yes, you see, this is what this how these are oriented. This is the pause. This is pause. And Mahotsav there was in Bordwa. And because of some atrocities, his records are divided and decided Ganmo, Nayanpur is Upper Assam. There is view is there. In view, what is there? Oi cool Ramo, Bidu Samo, some what he did. Do like this. Tak down, you not that's down, oh, and people got it. Yes, it is our people, yes. This too long. In Kula, take it, yes, like this. I can recite many as 100 examples. Data. Like that. Okay. Missing. This is. I will not go to the dance part. I will close it. And you see, the Namo part. I conclude in Namo part. Very simple. 2 words. With 2 words there is a noun. With 4 there is a noun. Because they are rooted people. Hari and Ram. These are 2 words. There is a very beautiful noun. What is 2 words? Hari and Ram. Hari Rama. Hari Rama. Only 2 words. Krishna, Gopal, Karunamoy, Ram, Hari. These are name of God. Krishna, Gopal, Karunamoy, Ram. These are name of Krishna. But these are very fantastic lyrics. Krishna, Gopal, Karunamoy, Ram, Hari. Yes. Anyway, what? Yes. What? And in view also, I will not go. This Vaishnavika is entered. Okay, no problem. And I go to the Nam part. I go to the Nam part. Because brought this, I should tell you. How this thing like? How this thing like? You see, really play. Krishna, I got you. Tune is like the pop. Krishna, in morning and evening, there is anywhere in the house so long. Asam is people as a prayer. Because these, what are the notes? Sa, umaga, ma, pa, kumol ni. Yes, sometimes kumol ka. Sometimes kumol kuddara. Like that. These are the musicology. And so many things are there. Krishna Hari. This is Namaka. Krishna Hari Ram Hari Ram Ram. Just a minute. What is here? Krishna and Hari. The performance is going on, but word is Krishna and Hari. Krishna Hari Ram Hari Ram 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 Ananta Shulapana Tanonarayana. After a few moments, oh Govinda, 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 Rama Murari, Ananta Koti Brahmanda, Hari Rodhika. Just imagine, Ananta Koti Brahmanda, lakhs of galaxies. The God is supreme. Hari Rodhika, Hari Govinda Murari, Govinda Murari, Ananta Koti Brahmanda, Hari Rodhika, Hari Govinda Yes. Okay. This is the Pratano, and many things are there. One pair, but the sung by traditional God, best singer award in National Film Festival. Mahotsav. That tune is composed by Madhavadeva. That is the power of music of Madhavadeva. Alright, should I request just one line? Just one line. She got National Award in Film Festival. Best singer award. Tune is composed by Madhavadeva.
কিমতে ভগতি করিব তোমাত হরি 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 হরি
What is the notation here?
Minor leads and minor leads.
This is tune that is everywhere in Assam and in broadcast, not of the broadcast. Okay, and Nati dance or this Basi dance or Hazu. Sometimes it is called Hazuali dance. This is my last Hazuali Ramdhani 1, Ramdhani 2. 8 Ramdhani was there. 1 Ramdhani 45 feet. The name Hazuali is from the Hazu. It is derived from the many exponent scholars capacity of dance. Yes, some are derived from this our so this is the hands of machine. This is a long center. Therefore, if people got interest in it, they adore it, they respect it, they memorize it, they theorize it like this way. And ultimately, there is a music created by Shane and Madhavadeva. And what Dr. Rabindra stated earlier, that Madhavadeva is not less important. And we all is grateful to Sahitya Akademi and especially Dr. Rabindra for organizing this seminar on Mahotsav. And this is last but not least, but thank you to all. I salute to all, pranam to all. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I just wish the watch was not running. I don't want him to give me trouble to one point. But with that, I think we should go for a Madhavadeva Samapit. Although we might be having questions, might be having points for discussion, the time is running out and we are already behind schedule. What about this? In the beginning, in the area of religious, Sir had said, Hongkore Prokakila, Madhavadeva Prasarida. I think that has been quite well discussed here. Jhumra also he had mentioned, that has also been discussed. Namrupa he mentioned specifically, that has also been mentioned. And Romial Viho, I think this needs to be discussed again, maybe in another context. But here, if I do not say something, that would be, my lacking or not doing my duty. Madhavadeva, as we all know, was very, very sad and very upset what happened to Rabindra because of the atrocities of the king, or to be specific, not the king, but those who were around him. So, Kshatriya, the political culture, was about to stop there. When another saint, another person, although we do not call him Guru like the two Gurus, Padma Ata from Lakhimpur, he went all the way to Montana where Madhavadeva was there. Within a very short period, he learned everything, and then Madhavadeva became very fond of him. He wanted Padmata to go to Upper Assam and propagate his faith. This was the time. Although Padmata was not interested in leaving Madhavadeva, but he had to because Madhavadeva said, मेरे बदले में तुम जाओ. That's how he came to be known as Badala Padmata, and we owe him, we the dancers and musicians, we owe Padmata a lot because it was him who brought the art form. May not be as an art form, maybe as an instrument of propagating the faith. He took it to Upper Assam and he established, among others, the Kamlabari Photo. I salute him once again on behalf of all Kshatriya dancers. Thank you, Sahitya Akademi, for having given us this opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. But I think out of my curiosity, I would like to ask you at least two questions. See, since I belong to Sanskrit, I have a few doubts. Generally, since this session is right from Gunagar ji till Anil Sahitya ji and ma'am Sahitya ji, the entire is centralized on the music. But I think you must have come across the very raga Amrit. My simple question is that is the same Amrit raga is also being used as part of Assamese music and dance? Because I read in some part of I think in autobiography, in the monograph of Sant Mahadeva, Madhavadeva, I heard that when he's I think whether it's Guru Shankardevaji or Madhavadeva himself when he did that raga, I heard that there was a shard.
Well, our musician friend and also Karayana, we have
Amrit
Varshini. Unfortunately, I have not got that raga. I have not seen Amrit Varshini.
No, it is not used in Assam.
Oh, yes.
The nature of the raga is Amrita Varsi, but not in nomenclature of Amrita Varsi.
Oh, fine.
It may be in
Also rain. It brings rain. What do you call rain?
Dr. Sahitya, it brings rain. You have any raga that
Do you have any raga at that time?
Meghamalla.
Only, sir, the only difference is the way you say.
Excuse me,
Not by
it is not
Mahotsav.
Meghamalla,
Shankardev
but
in his first ever Dhauna, Bhavan Jatra, created a few ragas out of which one was Meghamalla.
Only the difference is
Meghamalla.
which was very much like Meghamalla, and only the difference is in presentation. The way you sing it in Northern India is very different. It sounds similar, but the way you present it is very different. That is
Thank you.
So I have one more question.
One more question. Because Gunakar ji and Anil ji, even ma'am also, focused more about Krishna's philosophy and devotion. My simple question is that the peacock feather that is there at the crown of Lord Krishna, how do you look at in through the perceptions of Saint Madhavi?
Should I say that?
Yeah.
That is Shringar. That is the beauty, you know. If you go through his borders, in some of the borders, you see the colors. Absolutely the colors in a peacock. That is the colors, and that includes the rasas. The bhakti rasas.
So you
Shringar
do
rasa.
look at the
There's a song also there. Hate Shinga.
Mukhe moirar pakhi.
Mathe
Moirar.
So you do look at in a
Very spiritual and at the same time in a what you call it's beauty.
Achha, don't you look at it in a renunciation way?
Of course. That is
Vairagya.
Vairagya also, but not in the way we sing Vairagya,
Oh.
but in a very different way. I'll try to demonstrate that tomorrow.
That is one of the 6 themes. I refer to 6 themes.
Huh.
Just the first Leela is enough to populate an entire repertoire by itself. One of the 6 themes is Veda. But
No, I was talking about Vairagya, not Viraha.
No.
Vairagya is also different from this.
yeah,
Vairagya is different.
he remained celibate and created the celibacy.
That celibacy.
Lying in Satya.
Okay, fine.
So the Karmabari Sattvaras that have been referred to where Badla Padma Atta went and in place of Madhadev, they were set up as celibate.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Yes, I'd also like to add one sentence to it. Satya is not dance nor its music. It's not dance, music or theatre. It's a part of life, the past, pristine. And Madhavadeva seems to be or is considered to be behind this concept, the past, pristine. Was sort of living a very different kind of life.
So thank you so much, ma'am. And I sincerely thank the chair as well as the 3 paper presenters who have done, and particularly the performances presentation through performances, including band, is awesome. And thanks a lot. And on behalf of Dr. K. Srinivasarao, Secretary Sahitya Academy, I sincerely thank all of you for devoting your time for bringing out the secrets behind the sense behind the Sant Madhavadeva's approach towards music. And friends, we shall meet tomorrow sharp at 10 a.m. here itself for the third session that is devoted for the aesthetics, the composer and the philosopher. We shall look at it in a different dimension tomorrow. Till then, have a nice day. Thank you.